Hello, I'm Mona Bhatia. You are watching Learners Academy and listening to the explanation of the poem The Pulley by George Herbert. The Pulley by George Herbert. Alright. George Herbert was a priest and he wrote many religious poems. In this poem, the religious notion is conveyed through a scientific object called pulley. The poem exhibits a very strange but two-way relationship between God and man. When God at first made man, having a glass of blessing standing by. These two lines states that the time when God first created man, he had a glass of blessing which was with him. And what is that glass of blessing? All the blessings that gift that he wanted to shower on man. Alright, the blessings are implicitly compared to the attributes given to man. Line number 3, 4 and 5 will take it together. And let us, said he, pour on him all we can. Let the world's riches which dispersed lie contract into span. So all these world's riches, that is the gifts which were scattered all over the world, they were collected together in a small span. So they were all the gifts that God wanted to give mankind. So line number 6 says, so strength first made a way. So God first gave strength, then beauty flowed, then wisdom, honor and pleasure. So then he gave wisdom, honor, pleasure. Now line number 8 says, when almost all was out, God made a stay. So when God bestowed all the gifts on man, God stopped for a moment and he noticed only one gift remained at the bottom of the glass. That was rest. Which gift was not given? Rest was not given. Perceiving that alone of all his treasure, he noticed that there is only one gift left. What was that? Rest in the bottom lay. Line number 10. This is the most important line because in this line there is a pun, because the word rest has two meanings. The last one remaining and also a quality that stops us from doing something, that is to relax. Now line number 11 and 12, they are monologue. For if I should, said he, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he reconsider. He's talking to himself. He stops himself from bestowing this jewel. That is the last gift. What was the last gift? Rest. Now line number 13, he would adore my gifts instead of me. He gives, what's the reason? Why did he not give the rest? The reason is explained in line number 13. If rest is given, human beings would only adore God's gift and not God. Alright. Now line number 14. And rest in nature, not the God of nature. When human beings get rest, they forget God, and as a result, God will lose love. Human beings love. If human beings are relaxed, contented, they will not see God's love. Alright. They'll not turn towards God for anything. So both should loser be. Now why both will be loser? Give me the reason. Because this way man would lose his connection with God and God will lose the love of mankind. He will lose the love and longingness of his own creation. Man will forget the God creator. So we'll go to in this case, progress and rest never come together. We'll get one losing the other. Now, yet let him keep the rest. Yet let him keep the rest. Here the rest means the remaining one. Rest means all the things apart from rest which were there in the glass of blessing. God keeps the rest with him, and so what happens? When he doesn't give this gift of rest, man becomes restless, and he has a continuous anxiety due to dissatisfaction. Alright, this gives ripening restless, means continuous restlessness in his behavior. Now line number 18 says, let him be rich and weary. Why does he say that? Because so the man will be rich, but he will always remain tired and restless. Alright. Now in the last two lines, if goodness lead him not, yet weariness. Alright. Why he wants man to be rich and also weary at the same time? Because then if goodness lead him not yet weariness, means if richness does not lead him towards God, at least weariness and tiredness will definitely draw him back to God's heart. What is may toss him to my breast. So this weariness will lead him to the God. My breast means there is a synecdoche here. Synecdoche becomes, because the term my breast means God himself. Alright. So I hope you have understood the poem. Now we'll move on to the next topics. Words and phrases to understand in this poems. They have already been highlighted in red color. Riches. Riches means all the wealth and bounties of the world. Disperse means scattered. Contract means to collect together, to put them in one place. Span means small space. Perceiving means noticing, becoming conscious of something. And bestow on means give as a gift, to give something as a gift. Jewel here means it refers to the all the valuable thing, but here this jewel means rest. He's talking about rest. Adore means love very much. And repining restlessness means continuous anxiety due to dissatisfaction. Weary means very tired. And toss means to bring him. Here it means to bring that something close. To my breast means God's, to bring him back to God. My breast here refers to God's chest. Now next slide. Now we'll move on to question and answer to have a better understanding of the poem. The first question that is asked here is, what did the God's glass of blessing contain? Alright, it basically contained gifts such as strength, beauty, wisdom, honor, pleasure, and the gift of rest. What would human being do if God gifted him the rest? They would forget God. They would have nothing to long for or to feel restless about. See, the contentment, rest, and complete satisfaction would have made human beings feel complete. They will never turn back to God then. Now, third question, the poet has used the word rest thrice in the poem. Explain what the word implies in each of these three lines it occurs. At first, when rest is used, rest in nature, it means give importance to, enjoy the benefit of creation, to rest. Let him keep the rest. Here the meaning is the remaining one. Let him keep the rest of the gift, other one. Third time when rest is used, it is used for contentment and satisfaction. The next question, what does God want in return from man for the gift he has bestowed upon him? Now, God has given the gifts, but he also wants something back. He wants love, he wants longingness from human beings. He wants that human should not forget God and keep praying to God and always turn to God for completeness, satisfaction, for salvation and for comfort, for reaching his ultimate goal and becoming one with God. Alright? Now, the next question is, why did God withhold the gift of rest from the man? The God withheld because if man gets rest, he will not desire anything more. Man may even stop praying and asking for things from God. Since man is at rest, that is, he is contented. He will not have any complaints and incompleteness, so he will not turn to God for any reason. That's why God withheld this gift of rest from man. Besides those given in the poem, what other gifts has God blessed mankind with the above with his creation? You have to enlist those gifts. See, apart from all the gifts that are given in the text, strength is mentioned, all right, wisdom is mentioned, beauty is mentioned, honor, pleasure, rest, etc. are given. But besides these, there are innumerable gifts that God has given us, that He has bestowed on mankind, like nature, trees, birds, animals, fruits, flower, forest, food. Along with that, He has also given us the ability to think, ability to speak, dream, love, and introspect. So the list is very long. You can add even more from your end. We'll move on to the next topic. God ensured that man remembered and loved him. You have to justify the statement. How do you justify this? See, by keeping the gift of rest away from man, this way, though the man had everything, but man still remained restless, unsatisfied, and distressed, because these things, they never gave him satisfaction. And thus he always had to turn to God for seeking the ultimate contentment and rest. Once the man gets that rest, all the worldly pleasures and are not worthwhile. But to get that rest, he has to turn to God. So this way you can justify that God ensured that man remembered him and loved him. Just because in that way only man will be able to get the peace. Pick out 3 lines that contain monologues of God. The 3 lines that contain monologues from the poem are: Let us, said he, pour on him all we can. First one. For if I should, said he, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he would adore my gifts instead of me. And the third one is, if goodness lead him not, yet weariness may toss him to my breast. Monologues are those speeches which are made to him oneself. Man generally turns to God when he is in trouble. Explain the statement. See, firstly, man thinks that he is doing everything, that he has the power, but actually man doesn't have any power. He has only power of doing. The results are not in his hand. When the man doesn't get the outcome of his likings, he becomes upset, and sometimes illness, accidents, loss of someone who is near and dear, losses in business, and all these things, they knocks at his door and he can't handle them. So these things are beyond his control. In this situation, man trusts and turn to God. When everything goes as per the wishes of man, man becomes very arrogant and haughty. But God very softly and convincingly make him turn to himself by putting him in a restless situation again. Now justify the title of the poem. Alright. See, pulley is an object that lifts up an object to a height. Similarly, God also uses restlessness of a man as a pulley to lift man towards him. So as man gets tired of dealing with his problems, and he turns to God for seeking the rest, he is being pulled by God, because God only gave him that restlessness so that he can be pulled back again to him. Alright, we'll move on to the next slide. Herbert has used almost all the figures of speech to draw our attention. In line number 1, we have alliteration. Letter M is repeated here, M in maid and man. Alright, now in line number 2, the glass of blessing, which is underlined, it's a metaphor, and the qualities given to man are implicitly compared to glass of blessings. There is one more figure of speech in the second line, that is alliteration. The letter B is repeated twice here to give the musical effect to the poem. Now line number 3 has inversion. Let us, said he, pour on him all we can. The words are arranged in incorrect order. For poetic effect, the correct order should have been, let us, he said, pour on him all we can. In line number 4 again, let the world's riches which dispersed lie contract into a span. The correct prose order should have been, let all the world's riches which lie dispersed So again the figure of speech is inversion. Alliteration is also seen in the same line because the letter L is repeated twice here, and also we can see alliteration because there are two words which are opposite in meaning. The word is dispersed and contract. I'm going to underline them. This is dispersed and contract. They have opposite meaning, so the figure of speech here is antithesis. Now we'll move on to line number 6. There is a personification. So strength first made a way. The quality of strength has been given the quality of movement like human beings. It gives us a vivid image in our mind. Also the figure of speech here is alliteration because the letter sound is repeated twice. In the next line we have repetition because the letter then is repeated 2 times. Now the qualities are also arranged in increasing order of their importance. For example, strength first made a way, then beauty, wisdom, honor. So they are following a order, increasing order of their importance. Next we have this line, when almost all was out. You can see W is repeated twice, A is also repeated twice. Here the figure of speech that we can have is alliteration. And also you can see in line number 8 there is alliteration. Now line number 10 also has rest in the bottom lay. That means there is a personification because rest has been given the human quality of sitting. Lay means relaxing. Now this line is very important because it has twofold meaning. There is pun also because the word rest has two meaning. It means the remaining one, and also it means to relax or to rest. And there is also tautology. This line is really important because it has got tautology also, because the word rest and lay both mean the same. So we can see personification, pun and tautology in this line. There are 3 figures of speech here. Now we'll move on to line number 11. For if I should, said he. So there is no proper prose order followed here. The proper prose order should have been, for if I should, he said. So the figure of speech here is inversion. Now line number 2, bestow this jewel. Jewel is referred to as the gift. So the gift of rest is implicitly compared to jewel. So the figure of speech here is metaphor. Now line number 13, he would adore my gifts instead of me. Here the letter M is repeated twice, so the figure of speech is alliteration. And in line number 14, and rest in nature, not the god of nature. The word is repeated here is nature, so the figure of speech is repetition. So both should loser be. Again here you can see the letter B is repeated twice, but here we have one more figure of speech, and that is inversion. So both should be loser should have been the correct prose order, which is not followed. It's basically done to bring out the beauty in the poem. Mostly it is done in the poems, but in some prose also it is done. Yet the next figure of speech is in this line, but keep them with repining restlessness. The letter R is repeated here twice. Now here again the next line has rich and weary. So we have two contradictory ideas. Rich means comfort and weariness means tiredness. Both these contradicting ideas have been placed in the same line, and they are implied to the human beings. They should be rich and weary at the same time. Like these two contrasting ideas cannot be there in the same person. Either he can be rich or he can be weary. Now there is a paradox. That means which I have already explained, the statement contradicts itself. So the man will be rich, but he'll be weary, he'll be tired. Now the last, this line also has inversion. If goodness lead him not, yet weariness. So the correct prose order should have been, if goodness does not lead him. Alright. So the figure of speech here is inversion, and there is personification. Goodness has been given the quality of leading as if it is a human being. It has been personified. Now the last line, very important. This has got two figures of speech, and this is very important. There is hyperbole. The word toss means throwing. Here it is used to exaggerate the idea of bringing man close to God. My breast means God. So God is saying, may toss him to me, myself. Now synecdoche. Synecdoche means part of the whole becomes the God. The term breast means God himself. What is the meaning of synecdoche? When the part of something is represented by the whole, or the whole of something is represented by the part. So may toss him to my breast, not my breast, basically it's to toss him towards God. So the figure of speech here is synecdoche. The title itself, the title of the poem itself, is a conceit extended metaphor. Why? Because where there is an implicit comparison between gift of rest and pulley by which he will be pulled towards God. Alright, now we'll move on to the next slide. The title of the poem is The Pulley. This is a metaphysical poem that uses extended metaphor of a pulley to explain the reason for why man is always restless. The title of the poem is quite justified, as the pulley lifts up an object to a greater height. Similarly, God also lifts a man towards him through the pulley of restlessness. Now we come to the poet. The poet is George Herbert, who is a Welsh poet. He was a priest by profession, and he has written many religious poems with lot of imagery and conceit. The rhyme scheme of the poem is each verse of the poem has 5 lines, and the rhyme scheme of each verse is A B A B A in the first 3 paragraphs, and while in the last paragraph it is A B C B A. Now comes the figures of speech. The chief figures of speech used in this poem are metaphor. For example, a glass of blessing. The qualities are implicitly compared to the glass of blessing. Climax, then beauty flowed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. So as the qualities are listed in the ascending order of their importance. Pun. In the line rest in the bottom lay, as the word rest has 2 meaning. Then tautology. The word rest and lay both means the same thing. Antithesis is also used in the poem. Let him be rich and weary. So the opposite and contradictory idea are used in the same line. Paradox is there in the line. Let him be rich and weary. So inversion is also there. If goodness lead him not, yet weariness. So there is inversion in the poem, in this line. Now personification is also used in the line. So the strength first made a way. Alright. Now hyperbole and synecdoche are used in the same line. May toss him to my breast. So there is an exaggeration of bringing man close to God. That means tossing. And the term breast symbolizes God, part of the whole. Now the central idea of the poem. The central idea of the poem is that however rich we may be, we always turn our thought to God, because He has not given us the quality of rest. Although He has bestowed upon us innumerable blessings, He did not give us the contentment and rest. And because of this restlessness, we always are dissatisfied and ultimately turn our attention to God. Okay. Now When everything was given to God, God kept rest at the bottom, thinking both should the loser be in case he gives the rest also. Now when human beings get rest, they forget God, and as a result God will lose the love and longingness of human. Progress and rest never come together. We get one losing the other. This is the central idea of the poem. Why I like or dislike the poem? There is no question of disliking, because I like this poem very much. As it gives me a life lesson that mere riches cannot give us satisfaction. It teaches me to always remember God and be in gratitude all the time for all the blessing that God has bestowed upon us. So that's all about it. If you have any queries, you can post us in the comment section, and keep learning. Have a good day. Thank you.